Welcome to Conversation 473. If you're joining us right now, we thank you. We appreciate you looking at Conversation 473 every night. Do us a favor, share the live video so that everyone else can come onto the conversation. Now, tonight we will be going in on the opening of the borders. Now, um, flights have already started coming in of people that will have been repatriated to Grenada. 88 people were supposed to come in today from the United States, people who were out, nationals who were out of Grenada. Officially, the government announced that July 1st will be the day when Grenada will be opening up fully to commercial flights. Some people in the country are anxious and have anxiety about it. Some are saying it's a necessity. Experts all over the world are saying we got to prepare for the second wave. People are always speaking about adjusting to the new normal and so on. But one thing we know is that life has not been the same for the last 3 months, and things continue to change and develop. Today we have a very exciting panel as usual. My co-host is here, Rolanda McQueen. Rolanda, how are you?
Really well, thank you.
Yes, filling in for Kalisha today, we have Leslie Carrington. Leslie, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm fantastic. And joining us, our specialist, someone who I have a lot of respect for and who I've seen dedicate the most of our life to, development of community, sustainable development, agriculture, you name it. The list of things that she does: educator, mobilizer, activist, advocate. The list is long. Dennis Ogilvy, how are you?
Thank you very much. That was very lauding. I'm not sure about it, but yes, thank you very much. It's glad to be at home through you. Thank you.
Okay, but Denise, right now, well, all the other people on the panel are from Grenada, but you are living in Grenada. You are now in the United States. How is it? How is things up there? Black Lives Matter protests and so on. How are you doing out there?
Well, let's just say every day we're looking at a new event, it seems. And now after the Black Lives Matter protest, we're also seeing that the National Guard numbers are now being told that are coming out from persons who are now affected by COVID as well. So we don't know what those numbers are going to truly be, but we're looking to see in the next couple of weeks where this is going. Chicago was a very big place. I'm in Illinois that actually was affected, but now we're finding it in the rural areas where I am. I'm on the Mississippi in a school called Principia College. And we're finding that the numbers are growing out here. The school itself is unsure about if it's going to open right now. It's still tentative because if they do open, we're talking about different protocols of people, one person per desk, being sectioned off by plexiglass, having masks, one-way traffic in hallways so that you're not bumping into each other, a whole plethora of different protocols to be going on. So we looked at how they're doing hotels like the Ritz-Carlton, the amount of disinfecting that's being done by misting, and it's very expensive equipment, a lot of things being put into place. I sent something out on Facebook. I hope the Hotel and Tourism Association or authorities have taken a look and to see what is really needed, because out here, if the numbers go wild, and you are just 23 and 23 that recovered, you have no idea the numbers, how they are so high out here. You want to keep, I would like to see home stay that way. I truly want to see home stay that way.
Okay. So question, Denise, in terms of Grenada opening back up and having the borders open on July 1st, what are some of the things that you think that should be a top priority in terms of things we need to be mindful of in that process?
Testing. Testing is the first thing. Quarantine, second thing. We have to be very careful that we don't escalate our numbers for ourselves. At one time, there was a person on Facebook saying that they were worried about the Minister of Health why he was doing what he was doing and how they were moving and shutting down the country because people have to live. You're right. People have to live. And that's what the Minister of Health was trying to do. Make sure that we all lived healthy. I beg you, as my fellow Grenadians, take heed. Our Ministry of Health, I have to applaud them, on how they're not just listening to what is going on PAHO and WHO, but they're doing their own research. They're rechecking people. I was very, very proud to be able to say this to other persons, that we're taking such care, because that's not happening here. So I think, at one time, person said, look at the herding that was going on in Sweden. Go look at the numbers now in Sweden. And we don't have the health facilities to deal with these things. So I beg caution. I beg caution, and I beg people to start thinking about living sustainably, because it may not be the dollar that might cure us at the end of the day. It might have no cure. Being able to live and eat our local foods and live healthily might be the thing. So we have to start thinking about where our priorities really are. Do we value people and community and health, or do we value money more? It's going to come down to that.
Ms. McQueen, what do you feel about the borders opening up on July 1st?
Denise, I so agree with you. I am more scared now than I was when we had the first case, because with the border opening up, if we import another case, what is going to happen? Will we shut down again, or is it going to be it seems to me now like how America and England are doing, the fittest survive. And if you remember, both the cases that we have was imported from the UK and America, and they're not doing very good. It is frightening when you look at the news and you see what is happening in America. We shouldn't even be thinking about opening up. I think if we had to open up, we should be doing business with the people in the Caribbean, that St. Vincent, Barbados, that have it under control. We shouldn't even be looking to be taking in flights from America or England. Kitaka, I remember when we just had that problem. I remember because where my office is, the dead Lacroix, and I don't know if it was Lacroix, and the passing up with lots of coffins. So I think we were preparing for a disaster to happen, and it did not happen. The Grenadian, and we have to, I think sometimes we do not give enough credit to our people, because Grenada really took it in control, because I think the people realize that we haven't got the facilities, that if things was to go wrong, they haven't got any way to go. There is no hospital to run to. So they took control of their own health. So now I don't think the government can go and disappoint them, because they did really well. They really helped the island. They stayed safe. Even the few people that we had that was ill, they didn't really spread the virus and things like that. So now we have to think about the people.
As people say, as our mothers, as old people say, Ms. McQueen, when you have old food, you take in front. Leslie, what about you? Like where you sit on the fence in terms of opening up, like anxiety? Is it a necessity? Where do you stand?
Well, I think opening up will happen eventually, whether we want it to or not. My main thing is what safety precautions will be put in place to ensure that the people here are not infected by those who may have COVID-19. So I think the government really needs to make that clear as far as what measures they plan to implement once the airways open up and people start coming into the country.
Well, there is a, are you there, Denise?
Yes, I just want to show you another scenario. So I was just looking at the news from Grenada. Believe me, I'm in Illinois, but I'm always in Grenada. I was just looking at the news, and they were talking about remittances because people were leaving their job, losing their jobs, and that a lot of people would not come home, and some were dying, you know. And this is not just those persons. This is everybody. This is, you look at Virgin, just took a big hit, and their stakeholders lost their, their income inside of Virgin Airlines. Yeah, you're looking at businesses crashing globally. Yeah, so when it comes to tourism, it'll be interesting. I see flights begging people, please buy a ticket. Please buy a ticket to keep us alive. But at the end of the day, everybody globally is hurting, from the biggest man to the smallest man financially. And so we will also have to understand that most of our money comes from outside. And if outside is hurting, who's buying the tickets? Who's coming? But in the meantime, we can experiment and see how many, how long, But what we should also do, like the Minister of Health, build in a resilience policy saying that, okay, we know things are bad globally. So what we should also look is, what can we do financially for our people here? What businesses, like the Prime Minister of Barbados, what other businesses can we develop now in order to fall on a second leg? Yeah, it is time to think about that now, not when we dip real hard. The Economist, in an Economist article, they were talking about how they're looking at 3 scenarios: a V graft of us plummeting the economy and raising back up, but with a second wave. I'm not sure if a V graft will be working, or a U where we plummet, it worked, we go through a period and then come back up, or an L. And an L means it plummets and it streamlines to depression for a long time. So that's the Economist looking at that at this point in time. So we need to understand, whatever our government does at this point in time, we have to build in a backup theory of how this is going to be. How are we going to survive?
So, all right. So Ms. McQueen, I was going to say this. So you guys agree that what determines us opening up is having the necessary procedures in place. I'm going to play a short video right now to show what the airport put out recently in terms of things that they're going to be putting in place in the airport. And after the video finishes, we'll have your guys weigh in on it.
Grenada Airports Authority is taking all the necessary health and safety measures to protect staff and passengers from COVID-19 at both the Maurice Bishop International Airport and the Lauriston Airport. The Airport Authority assures the general public that it continues to follow guidelines outlined by the Ministry of Health, CARPHA, and WHO, and has employed international best practice measures such as sensitization sessions for staff, enhanced passenger screening, improved sanitation protocols, and monitoring updates from official local, regional, and international agencies. The safety of all our employees and passengers is our top priority. Thus, we have improved signage and taken additional steps to remind all our employees, passengers, and other stakeholders of the 6 feet physical distancing protocols, wearing of masks, and other sanitation measures. We have also installed additional sanitizing stations throughout the facility, floor markers, plexiglass sneeze guards for customer contact points, as well as COVID-19 testing stations. Upon entry to the terminal, all passengers are screened by public health officials and required to fill out health declaration forms. the authority is and continues to be committed to taking all the necessary protective measures to reduce the risk of the spread of COVID-19 and to ensure the safety and wellness of all involved.
So, okay, this was released by the Airport Authority yesterday. So, what's your thoughts?
Traveling. I think somebody said there's an echo. I don't know if you are hearing it. If it's from me. Kitaka, coming on an aeroplane, you usually sit next to someone unless you are in the first class cabin. You know, you are leaning. You can't even, the wind cannot pass between you and the next person on the flight. When you come in from a place like England, on that flight, I have met people flying in from Germany, from France. I've even met people from Australia. We know sometimes people could be carriers and they don't have any symptoms. Okay, just imagine I take a flight from London and somebody, Germany is coming. They haven't shown any symptoms until maybe they arrive in Grenada after a couple of days after. So all this, it does not matter, I don't believe, what measures that it's been taken. That does not mean that person cannot fall sick and infect somebody a couple of days afterwards. The problem I think we are saying is we haven't got the facilities. It's fine to take all this precaution, but if somebody develop the virus after they have landed, after they have done all what they are doing, we will not be able to cope. I don't think everybody wants the island to open up. I'm in business. I would like to see it open up, but we haven't got the facilities. When people go to have a baby in Grenada, the most common thing, they're afraid because they're coming out dead. Do you think we could control this virus? I think we have been through the toughest part already, the last 2 months. I think we could hold on for another couple of months to see how we go. People will have, because if we get the virus again, we'll have to shut down and that would really kill us. We have to, the people has made the sacrifice. I think we can hold on for a couple more months. And I say, let us trade with the Caribbean islands that haven't got, we cannot be thinking about the hotels and the businesses. We have to be thinking about life. Let us trade, I think, with the other islands that haven't got it. Dennis, maybe you may correct me, I think New Zealand and Australia is doing that, trading among themselves because they haven't got the widespread. We cannot afford to bring people in from Europe or America.
So, Leslie, what about you? Based on the protocols that you saw there, did that give you more safety and assurance that things will be okay when people come in?
Unfortunately, no. And I'd like to follow up a little bit about what Denise said. Yes, right now, economically, most people don't have the expendable income to invest in a vacation, in travel. However, there are people, business people, who, you know, travel for other reasons, who are looking to come and take advantage of a quote unquote COVID-free space island in the Caribbean. They're investors who are also looking. So those things are very appetizing to those individuals who want to make money, correct? So I think we need to plan ways of transitioning the majority who have often depended on tourism and travel for their wages. Because it's one thing to say, hey, Z, there's one thing to say, let's rebuild. But there are a lot of people right now without employment. There are a lot of people who are hungry. There are a lot of people who can't pay their rent. So what are we going to do to meet them where they're at and to provide them with alternatives while we keep the borders closed? Because those would be the people who would be advocating to government to please open up, because I need to earn money. I need to feed my family. I need to live.
Okay, people in the chat, you could comment and see where you guys stand in terms of opening up. But then is a big issue in Grenada people are concerned about is how are we going to survive? How are we going to eat? How are we going to live if we don't open up? Like we broke some, we don't have money, we must open up or else we're going to die. Like speak to that, and how can Grenada navigate through that without opening up that anxiety people have about their survival and their livelihood?
I totally understand. If you live in St. George's, you're going to really feel the pinch, because you may not be the people living in the countryside or Carriacou and Petit Martinique, which is accustomed to actually being kind of left behind. So yeah, you're going to feel like, oh my gosh, my world is falling apart. But I want to point out one of the persons, both Licorice and Jean Duncan, who have made some astounding statements here. We do have resources, you know. We haven't been looking at those resources at all. So yes, we have food to feed ourselves more than in the countryside. I remember it was just after Emily, and I got a call saying, when are we going to be able to get tarpaulins for putting things on our roof, you know? And I believe it was a guy by the name of, oh, I forget his name, but he St. Louis. And he said to me, you know what? I told him it'll take about 3 days at Red Cross to bring in things. And he said, you know what? We're going to round up with a pot and some rivers, and we're going to make it. You know, we're going to be able to take care of ourselves. Now in the countryside, yes, you will survive because there's close-knit community. They're not dependent on the boat coming in. They have stuff in their backyard and they will eat. But in those things are things that we can actually export that cost a lot of money up here that I see. You know, when I think about moringa, the lady with the 2 acres of moringa over there, I see the cost of moringa up here and it's astounding. They're selling from seeds, go right back to the leaves, and it's amazing. And I keep thinking, oh my gosh, we're sitting on gold back home, but we don't know. On this campus, I'm here with a lot of Africans, and they would tell me about how many investors, the Chinese and others who have come in, taken their mineral rights, gotten rich on them, and they haven't made any money, but they've worked for small salaries, and they call them jobs, and they say, look how many jobs we give you. Wouldn't it be nice if we could own our own business? I hear you about the investors, Leslie, but wouldn't it be really nice if we could think, if our Minister of Finance, if our Ministry of Agriculture could start a push, a drive like Barbados, who doesn't have as much going for them as we do, start thinking about how can we now invest in something that we could locally own and prosper from and become healthy on at the same time. I understand about the protocols within, and that, like I said, you don't know, because the virus, I hear different things about how long it lives on stuff. You know, we have even protocol for our mail room here, because even receiving things from Amazon can be a little iffy for us. So you really need to start looking at how can we sustain ourselves. And we did this already. There was a time in our lives when we were blacklisted and we survived. And we earned, and we exported nectar and juices, and we became one of the biggest agricultural producers in the Caribbean. We can do it. But if you think that the only thing we have going for us is tourism, and we do not find a second leg, if this thing gets out of hand, if we cannot find a vaccine, and anybody producing a vaccine overnight, I have my doubts about, seriously. But I would like to see, Leslie, those investors being maybe our own comeback. But right now, as Yumi is showing, that even they are crying hardship at this point in time, because everybody out here is hardly. So to start this from this would be nice.
If I can come in right, Ms. McQueen, a question for you. As one of the premier water producers in Grenada, where do you unmute your mic one bit? Unmute your mic, Ms. McQueen. Your mic is muted. Yeah. Where does the water companies like Montpio and so on stand in terms of, okay, if things get tough and we cannot receive stuff, in terms of ensuring that that quality drinking water can be disseminated to the people? Like, where are you guys at in terms of production and how COVID has shown things all around?
Well, what COVID has brought, which is nice, it has one of the things when I opened Montpelier, the first thing I wanted to do was to all the water company get together. COVID has done that. Myself, Glenelle, and Blue are speaking, and we are hoping to come together, forming an organization where we can make sure we have enough water to supply our people. Because with all this going on, the last thing we want to have is cholera or some other water disease, because when people's immune system is weak, what you need is clean, good, healthy water. And if I may say, Jean was saying she wasn't sure what it was on about. I am not for the island opening. It is frightening. What I was trying to say, having a plane load of people coming from all different parts of the world, because a plane may be coming from England, that does not mean the passengers on the flight are all from England. They could be from France, wherever it is. So I do not feel comfortable with us opening up. As Denise was saying, we have so many things on this island, and Montpelier has shown that if we put our hearts and our mind to it, we can go out there and face the world, and let us try and export what we have. Because as she was saying, people want the people with money. I was told that people with money was out on the ocean out there in the big yachts trying to run away from COVID. So if we could keep our island COVID-free, eventually we are going to get the right people in. They will wonder, what is this island has? And the people got COVID and they recovered from it. Then we can start, selling our natural products to them, our water. I always boast about how we have fantastic soils and boast about we have the best water, the best nutmeg, the best cocoa, right? We can really capitalize on this type of things and sell it out there to the world, as she said. So we have to look, but again, Denise, most of the people that run the government, they're not business people, they're not entrepreneurs. They do not think of how, I remember my parents having a hand of bananas, and when there are 6 children to feed, they will cut one banana in about 20 pieces. When you look in your plate, you think, my God, I've got so much food. And they say they make it stretch. We have to, whatever we have in Grenada now, we have to make it stretch. We cannot afford, maybe the government should, the young entrepreneurs, people that has businesses there, put money back, give them money so they could spend money so we could give our economy a boost. That's the best way I think we can do it.
Okay, guys, today I saw a very interesting story in coming out of England from the HuffPost in England. The headline reads that Black, Asian, and minority ethnic groups could be among first to get coronavirus vaccine. Health Secretary Matt Hancock said over 50s and people with heart conditions would also get priority. How do you guys feel about the vaccine and that statement that was just made in England and also moving into this race for the vaccine? Because I've noticed that there have been a lot of companies working assiduously to bring forward some sort of vaccine. Many are looking at the vaccine as the possible Hail Mary cure to all of this. Now I want to get from you guys where you stand. First with you, Denise, in terms of vaccination and some countries moving to give it to minority groups, preferably Black and Asian and over 50s and those with heart problems.
Like I say, I'm on this campus with a lot of Africans, and they've sent the message out loud and clear. They're not guinea pigs. They refuse. Because this can be unless there are laboratory tests being done on over a long period of time, we cannot be certain about anything at all. We just cannot be certain about anything. Really doing healthy practices, living healthy is one of our best things, and Grenada is full of it, full of possibilities. One of the things that we really, people are asking on the chat, how do we live by exports and stuff? But you know, the things that Americans are exporting that only the rich can afford is stuff from our country. Do you know that? I just beg you all, go online, look and see what the cost of these things are. You know, you couldn't. I'm now knowing I'm eating gold, and these things have great health benefits. Turmeric, ginger. You know, we're looking at the Tayo that people are now understanding about. Things that we call the old people food, you know, all of those things have more nutrients than some of the things that we buy and sell for tourism, like tomatoes. And people here are buying it because they understand, they've educated themselves, and rich people are buying it. So if we could feed ourselves, as we did at one time, feed ourselves as well as the Caribbean, let me have you remember that. Remember the maple palm, federal palm, I think it was, and the federal maple that used to go around selling our agricultural goods. If St. Vincent could be selling to us, why couldn't we be doing it if our emphasis is more on that? Now, when you talk about the vaccine, you want to be very cautious what you grab in. The person who promotes it should be the first person to be injected. And if they survive, I'll have it. But anything that's coming overnight, I'm not trusting it at all, because I know how much research went into polio vaccines, to malaria vaccines, to HIV vaccines, for it to come there. So for me to hear that overnight you're going to do this, and they're going to start with our color first on this campus, as I said, our African students, our internationals say no, none of that. They have a big protest against that. None of that. That's part of our Black Lives Matter issues here. No, we're not getting.
Leslie.
No. And I think we spoke about that briefly today. It just seems really funny that all of a sudden now the government is so benevolent and so caring of Blacks and other minorities that they are going out of their way to make sure that we are given this opportunity for life first. I don't think so. And I don't think most Black people are falling for that. No, we're not going to be your guinea pigs. No, you're not going to inoculate us with some foreign substance. And then say, oops, we're so, not even sorry, just oops. The next set is coming out. No, absolutely not. It's suspicious, and Black people, especially Black people in America, have been through enough where history has shown time and time again where the government has promised to give you inoculations to help you, and instead they have harmed you and done detriment to you and your family. So I really don't think the majority of people of color are saying, oh, thank you so much for putting us first. No.
Ms. McQueen, question to you. I've heard most of the countries are saying the same thing. They are saying, okay, we're following the information from the experts, and whatever the World Health Organization says, we are going with it. So if, let's say, next week, World Organization says, to travel, to move around freely within the world, you need to take this vaccine. It's mandatory. Ms. McQueen, where would you stand on that? Would you take that vaccine or not?
No, I wouldn't take it.
Why?
I will ask them for the one the white people have it, because I believe they have some for the white and they have for the Black. I would not feel safe taking it, and I have spoken to my children to make sure that my grandchildren is not. I don't trust them. I really do not trust the World Health Organization. I do not trust. When you see all President Trump and all of them walking around with no mask, I really do not trust them. Too many things has been done to us as a race, and I believe, now, and you cannot blame anyone for not trusting the World Health Organization. I will stay at home and sit down, but I'm not taking it. Or as I say, I will ask for the one the white person getting.
That's a funny quote. We'd have to put that quote up and attribute it to you. Denise,
Yeah.
back to us being able to feed ourselves. I mean, you have done a lot of courses on sustainable agriculture, permaculture, and so on, teaching communities how to be self-sustainable and self-sufficient. Those are some words we've been hearing a lot over the last couple of weeks. But what kind of simple, practical advice can you give to like families right now in this time of things that they can do on a low budget way to make themselves more resilient to face, let's say, if we keep ourselves closed up for our next 2 months?
Well, right now, I'm in a campus that's shut down, and so us as internationals are sort of stranded here on the campus. And I have a deck load of food on my back deck, and I did it in little kiddie swimming pools and containers, and I've done it with a lot of resources that are right there, because we learn to build soil for ourselves. For those who took the permaculture training, they will remember hugelkultur, about how we can use wood at the bottom that is now breaking down as a sponge to hold the water, especially for dry spells, and put in your nutrients. It's about first, here's what's got to happen that I feel that the government needs to make a push to. Families have to be food independent, they have to be water independent and energy independent. And if the government can then viral education, as UNESCO has suggested, get it out on the internet and have each child have the opportunity to embrace school right where they are. And it's already happening. Kelvin Doughton, a good friend of mine, is actually teaching math on GIS. So we're in a good direction, We're going in a good direction. Sometimes we just concede all the problems, but we don't see where it is. We really have some good solutions, and we have some good solutions and some good possibilities. But it's got to move to the angle of becoming more self-sustainable. That's going to build in resilience. Because if it's not one shock wave, it's going to be another. If it's not a disease, it's going to be a hurricane. If it's not going to be a hurricane, it might be an earthquake. If it's not an earthquake, it's going to be a tsunami. And if we could learn that we can survive, make our economy from inside that is exported outside versus one that we always have to import, this is the time to reverse all of that. This is the time to make the difference in all of that. And I'm reading some of the comments from the people at home, and we've got it, man. We've got it. If it starts with the core people understanding they have possibilities, then all we need is the government to come and support it. But we need to start building a homegrown economy versus the one that we import all the time. Because the world right now, I tell you, you're looking at a lot of countries, a lot of businesses crashing. I beg you, go on the stock market, go and look at what's happening in The Economist, go and look at what's happening on Wall Street. There are things that are happening that are out of our control. This is not our government not doing nothing. No, this is circumstance from the global fallout. And we, as a small country, have to figure out how we did it. And now if Cuba, in a time of embargo, figured out how they were going to survive, but they went through a long period, what they called like the special period, where they went for a long period before they found the solutions. Let's not wait to have a long period. Let's start figuring out the solutions now. And look at Cuba. It's investigated all their herbs, all the possibilities for developing medicine. Whose doctors they're exporting everywhere? 25 universities in Havana. Yeah? How can we then become that kind of people? How can we now become self-sustainable? Because it was Hurricane Ivan, it was Emily, it's this, it was the financial crash. I have sat in meetings in government where for food for the poor, forgot the zero hunger, and the gentleman showed us the graph of how every time something happened globally, Grenada take a dive and come back up again, a dive and come back up again. If we could not depend on things from outside, and if we have more self-sustainability inside, and we export all of these things that they're selling. Right now, health is a major issue for everybody out here in the developed world. So here's a possibility that we're sitting on a gold mine of health and wellness, herbal, nutraceuticals, and pharmaceuticals. This is the time. This is the time to remember who we are and remember our pride and remember our community strength and go back to those times. We have lived these times before. We have lived these times before. I don't want to call the period because everybody gets bad.
Miss Marquin, you wanted to come in, Miss Marquin?
Yes, Kurt make a remark. They say with the local people too foreign minded, and older people now don't check in on generational wealth or passing on estate of business. Kurt, you are so right, and hearing it coming from a young person, it really makes me feel sad. I remember I have land that was left to me by my parents that will go on to my grandchildren, and I will make sure they have to pass it on. It seems like when I was growing up, we had land. You know, every child was going to get a house spot for that land. You know where this child had her land, your mother would give you a spot. But now it seems like Granny is selling all the land. Anybody that come, any foreigner that come, Granny will sell the land because everything now is about money. Money, money, money. And there is nothing to be passed on to these young kids. So they have no start whatsoever. I've seen so many people coming in and buying acres of land. Then we had this problem this week where somebody went for land, a small piece of land to build a house, and she was and you know, somebody in charge sexually assaulted her. So, you know, Kurt, it's sad, and it really make me feel very sad when I see how our wealth, our children inheritance is being sold out or given away.
Leslie, also, before I come back to you, Dennis, in terms of the whole building an inside economy, in terms of what Dennis said, building out and building Grenada from out and not depending on outside and so on, Leslie, you want to weigh in on that?
Yeah, I agree. The only challenge is, well, not the only one, but it's where do we get the money to support that initiative? Where do we get the money to give to the farmers to plant and grow enough to sustain our local population as well as to export? So those are the things that we have to think about, and those are the things we need to take action on, because again, there's so many people unemployed right now that if we really make a movement to do these things, which can potentially provide people with employment, we need capital, we need money to buy the equipment, we need money to buy the seeds, we need money.
Before I send it back to you, Denise, another thing I'm seeing as well too is a skill deficit, and how do we address that as well? With the thousands of kids that come out of school every year, from secondary school, from universities, who come back, so on. The skill set that is available now, and how prepared and how capable is our human resource to be able to effectively go into homegrown production and build our economy from inside out?
You know, we teach lots of reading, writing, and math, and we teach nothing about the environment that we live in and how we can do this. Where I am at this school here, we teach experiential learning. We teach place-based education. We learn about your place first. I'm in the middle of 600 acres of forest land where we have snake research, we have maple syrup research, We have a lot of different things going on, and the students learn about these things. We have a big thing on solar cars. And so this is what students are learning here at this place. It'd be nice if TAMCC was that type of place, just saying. Because the first thing we should learn is how we can survive in our environment before we learn a lot of other things, you know, and the wealth that we have around us. Because if it wasn't for people like Guido Marcel and Dennis Noel, and I learned from these guys about, I remember once I found out about these moringa things, and a French friend of mine said, you know, what about moringa? No, in fact, it was a young girl called Sophie Roberts who told me about moringa seeds that were brought in by her uncle from Belize and what the properties were. And when I went to the people at that time, one of the guys at forestry, he says, you have to be careful, it's not invasive. But then when I went to Guido Marcel, I said, look at this. He says, but what do you mean? It's in my handbook. It's in my handbook that me and Dean Jules put together quite some years ago on what we have as some of the possibilities for our environment. And moringa is one of them. But we've never taught our children in school these things. They're like little hidden secrets all over the place. I just want, back to Leslie, you talking about people, you know, how do we get the money? Agreed upon. But I have to tell you, Mott Green from the chocolate factory walked around for his life with the beans in his hands, looking at all the factories, how they were built, and then made his own equipment, because there's nothing like his cocoa press anywhere in the world. A 3-ton jack and an A-frame is what makes that cocoa butter and cocoa powder. That is what happens. There was a guy who did innovations of the, you know, we have so much innovations that have come through Grenada, but we've also had investors who've come, gotten tired, and moved on. I remember one guy came to me about mango seed butter, and when he showed me the cost of mango seed butter, I couldn't believe it. Look at that stuff. And we have mango falling all over the place. And what is mango seed butter? Inside the seed itself, that white piece, and then they grind that up and make into a butter. It's more expensive than shea butter, and it does much more. Do you all know that a guy from Johns Hopkins also came with another guy who came from a pharmaceutical company, saying that they wanted soursop seeds? Because you see, we sell the whole thing. We don't break it down to what we could get. You know, I think it was another guy who is from the Produce Chemist Lab, and he said, you know what? He would the leaves and seed. Let me get my thoughts clear. It was Mr. Blaze in Caracou who showed me. I said he planted over 3,000 trees. I said, Mr. Blaze, when are you going to make money on these trees? He says, already making money, because I sell all the leaves and the stems as I trim the trees, and when they bear the fruit, I will send that over. But I want to pulp these, as the guy in the Produce Chemist Lab said. You know what he would do is use the pulp, sell it to Trinidad for ice cream. That might be the cheapest thing, but the other parts had so much more wealth, and it's because we don't know what we have. We have people who do, you know, but it's the top secret that we have to pay them tons of money. And Leslie, just that you know, you want to know where the money coming from? World Bank, IMF, UNDP, all these people are now saying we expect a fallout, so have a plan. Just like after Ivan, they came and say, okay, here's the fallout. How can we help? You don't say, okay, we need more salaries for tourism people without looking at what can we invest that make us more independent. Those are the things. This time is coming, Leslie, where they're going to ask us for all our proposals. Know what we want to ask for this time. Don't be fickle. Understand what we want and go for it. This could be so well done. We have possibilities. And instead of the investors coming to us, go out and look for the investors and say, hey, you, Johns Hopkins University, hey, you, pharmaceutical company, hey, you nutraceutical company, hey, you fair trade that buys down from the cocoa leaf to the cocoa stem to the cocoa pod from people, as well as us fair trade banana guys in Birch Grove. They give them the supplies, they help them build the infrastructure. We have possibilities, and these people come to talk to people. But some people say, well, okay, a man had to eat bread. What's in it for me? No, you're working for your community and your country first. Ask me what I can do for you, what I can do for my country.
Denise, well said. I mean, I look at our sparkling water. We went out this year and got silver for one of the best sparkling water in the world. And we made the equipment ourselves to produce the sparkling water. Because when we look at the price of getting the machine, there is no way we were going to be able to afford one of that at the moment. And myself and two of my workers sat down. I came up with the idea and I said, listen, this is how we are going to do it. The first time we didn't get it right, but we tried and we got it right. So I just say, if we put our head together, we can come up and we can do it. I know personally, when I am sitting down, I'm using this COVID time now to plan, to think what next. What next are we going to do? What next? Next year, please, God, I'm looking at, there is, and maybe if there are people out there listening, we have a flavored water that they have a competition with. We have nutmeg, we have soursop. I want to go out there and enter into the flavored water. And I know we will be coming back with a medal as well. That I am so excited because of the opportunities that COVID would be bringing, and where we are so lucky, we have so much natural products here that people want out there. People are dying for, people are wanting it. We do soursop tea. And we cannot sell enough of it to America because everybody now is trying to build their immune system, and they are looking again. Can you imagine if it was an island where everybody was dying from the coronavirus? Nobody wouldn't want anything from us, but we have something great to sell. We have to be able to turn around and say to people, our food, our air, our water, what we're eating, that is what keeping our immune system strong. So we can capitalize on that.
Okay, ladies, we're getting close to wrap up time. But I want to get you guys' final thoughts on a hopeful message as well, because people tune in. I mean, sometimes I get depressed by looking at all the news. We're always saying, okay, the second wave is coming. How much people losing their job? I saw news coming today about 42.5 million people in America has filed for unemployment benefits thus far. I was listening to a podcast recently that said that remittances is set to go down by about 200 billion this year. And I know remittances is something that really keeps a lot of people alive in the developing countries. So it's always a lot of depressing news. So for final thought, I want to get something hopeful from you guys in terms of where do we go from here and how best do we adapt and live through what people is now calling the new normal. Starting with you, Denise.
Oh Lord, you got me off guard now. Well, first of all, investigate what you have. If you want to know what the worth is, go look for it on Amazon or one of those things and find out how much is turmeric really. Find out how much is sorrel, is king out here, Find out how much, what's the worth of what you're sitting down on is. Because we are not poor, we are wealthy, but like Africa had the same thing. They gave away their mineral rights to the Chinese for little money. And all they asked was for jobs and a road in one of the African countries. And they lost out. I mean, the Chinese are making profit on them hands over fist. Let's not be those people. Let's know what we have. Let's not go out and wait for investors to hop on a plane and try and figure it out. Let's go and find them. Let's go and ask them, come, we need nutraceutical markets. We need herbal pharmaceutical markets because we have cures. We have cures. And so in the meantime, my beloved Grenada, eat well, live well, be healthy people. Wellness will keep you away from the hospital. And that's not, wellness don't come from the imports. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to all the groceries and stuff like that. But maybe what you could do is reverse the whole thing and become the export factor versus the import factor. Because, Leslie, we do have people who can put in money. They could reverse the money of how they're doing it. Instead of looking to bring in things, export things. Instead of the grocery shelves being the place where they keep all this stuff, how about helping people to package and send it out? Look for Teresa Mary Shaw. Look for those farmers who are doing that work. This is what you really need to do. We are wealthy. Grab your wealth. Become the kings and queens of our country. We don't have to be under anybody's foot, and we don't have to have our hand out. But you have to believe that, and they have to do the research and do that. And as for the money, Timmy Antoine, I hope he gets this message too. I hope our Prime Minister gets this message. Start with the people who are coming in as donors. How can we start our own agro-processings back again? How can we put money back into that? How can we put money back into agriculture? Because it's been historically shown that every time something happens on the outside, our economy plummets. Be the government that can make our economy streamline. That would be my government, whoever it is.
Leslie, final thoughts? My mic was mute. Sorry. Final thoughts, Leslie?
So I agree with what Denise said, and I would just piggyback on that and say that education is needed. So farmers need to know how profitable it is to do organic farming, how profitable it is to harvest herbs, medicinal herbs. That is a great market. And obviously, if you're using something to heal as medicine, then the product needs to be organic, free of pesticides. So my final thought would be really around advocacy, advocating for these changes, and also educating people as to the profitability, monetary, as well as sustainability for the island and for the land.
Ms. McQueen, your final thoughts?
Yes. As I don't think I could have said it better than Denise have said it.
Can you hear Ms. McQueen? I'm not seeing you.
Can you hear me?
You there?
I said, yeah,
I'm
here.
hearing you now.
As I'm saying, I couldn't have said it better than Denise. You know, Denise, I'm very excited. I'm very, very excited to just go in there. We have a lot of great products. I've seen a lot of fantastic entrepreneurs. We just have to get together, encourage each other, and go out there and face the world, because what we have, they want it.
Okay. So for me, you guys made some very powerful points. What I would like to say is, at the end of the day, when I really analyze the statistics, let me look at it right now and speak from the stats. Of the 8.69 million confirmed cases worldwide so far, we have had 459,000 deaths, and 4.23 people have recovered. So far, Grenada has had 23 confirmed cases, 22 recovered, the other person traveled out. No deaths. So what that shows, guys, we have to remember that keeping your immune system strong, eating well, eating what is in Grenada, the fruits and the vegetables, drinking all the pure water, to keep the body going strong, because that is your first line of defense, your immune system. Also, even how you think as well, because health is spiritual, mental, and physical. And for me as well, cooperation, because I think what would really set us apart right now is how best families can unite, communities can unite, where we could all set our little goals to say, all right, there is approximately 2 acres of land around here that is farmable. Whoever that land is for, we can agree that we all can section it out or whatever we want to do to feed ourselves. Because if we have to lock down, we have to be able to feed ourselves. You understand? Marcus Garvey once said, a leadership that teaches you to depend on another race is a leadership that.
I think Kitaka has disappeared.
No, that
It
was going
seems,
so well.
yeah, but it just, he will come back on soon. But Dennis, it was great having you on.
I don't
know,
my internet connection. My internet connection dropped me
Could
down
you
a
say
bit
that
there.
again,
But
though?
yeah,
That was a great
we need
quote.
to be focused on working together and making what we have do. Making what we have do, as our granny does say. Let me make what we have do.
And call that George. You didn't know that part.
Yeah. So ladies, thank you so much for a fantastic show, and we'll see you guys on Monday. Conversation 473. Stay blessed, stay safe, eat healthy, and let's build Grenada better from the ashes of COVID.
Bye.